I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished chairman of the Health Subcommittee, the gentleman from California, Mr. Herger.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I rise in strong support of the Protect Medical Innovation Act. Mr. Speaker, it's a well-known principle that if you increase taxes on something, you get less of it. The medical device tax is a tax on innovation. It's a tax on creating good-paying American jobs, and it's a tax on the development of potentially life-saving medical treatments. Because it taxes sales instead of income, it will be especially harmful to new startup businesses that aren't turning a profit yet. My friends on the other side object to the offset in this bill, even though it merely requires that people pay back benefits they make too much money to qualify for. Their view seems to be that we should make it as easy as possible for people to sign up for taxpayer-funded benefits, and if that means we waste some money along the way, so be it. Mr. Speaker, at a time when we're borrowing 32 cents of every dollar we spend, I'd suggest we should be doubly careful to ensure that benefits go only to those who truly need them. The question before us today is simple. Do we want less innovation, less entrepreneurship, less high-tech jobs, and less medical breakthroughs? If you think America has too much of these things, vote no. But if you want to see more jobs, more startups, and more health care innovation, vote yes and repeal this damaging tax. I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
It's now my pleasure to yield 2 minutes to the very distinguished member from Minnesota, Ms. McCollum.
Gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized for 2 minutes.
And I thank the gentleman from Michigan for the time. Mr. Speaker, I want the Affordable Care Act to be fully implemented for the benefit of all Americans. I also support a healthy, growing medical device industry in Minnesota and across America. I support eliminating this medical device tax, which should never have been included in the Affordable Care Act. But at the same time, I strongly oppose the offset in this bill. This Tea Party Republican Congress controlling the House has voted over and over again to eliminate health reform's protections and benefits, denying millions of Americans access to life-saving care, including medical devices. The Republican goal is to kill health care reform. My goal is to strengthen it. Today I will vote to send this bill to the Senate, where I know a responsible offset can be found. My 2 Minnesota senators are committed to repealing this tax, and they will find an offset that does no harm. Eliminate this tax and strengthen health care for all Americans. That's my goal. And I yield back, and I thank you very much for the time, sir.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Thank you. At this time, I yield 2 minutes to a distinguished member of the Ways and Means Committee, the gentleman from Washington State, Mr. Reichert.
Gentleman from Washington is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the chairman for yielding time. And, Mr. Speaker, we have been here before. We're here today to talk about the Health Care Cost Reduction Act. And it's an act reducing costs from a bill that's called the Affordable Health Care Act. So let's just bring a little bit of context into this, Mr. Speaker. This isn't the first time, as I said, we've been here. A 1099 reform, language included in the so-called Affordable Health Care Act, more commonly known as Obamacare. A burdensome tax on small businesses. The Democrats agreed it needed to be removed from the bill. The President agreed and signed it into law. The Class Act was announced by the Secretary of our Health, Secretary Sebelius. We can't afford to implement the Class Act. And that was designed to help with long-care health care issues. Can't do it. Can't afford it under the Affordable Health Care Act. The Independent Review Board, we've passed a bill here in the House to eliminate that. What does that do? It takes away all the choice from the American people, especially seniors and veterans, on what you want to do with your own health care. So time after time after time, we're finding language in this bill that is not affordable, that does not give Americans the opportunity to choose for themselves. It takes away choice. It takes away freedom. And today we're talking about a 2.3% tax that will cost thousands of jobs, about 10,000 in the state of Washington. And it will increase the price of these medical devices on things that you may not even think about. For example, a filtration device on a dialysis machine. That's going to be a medical device that will be taxed. Who's going to pay for that? Well, the claim is that these companies that are making so much money, they'll be the ones to pay for it. This bill is paid for through those companies. Those costs are passed on to the customers, to the patients.
I yield an additional 15 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would say that, Mr. Speaker, this bill does not have a real good track record. And we should vote for this Health Care Cost Reduction Act, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same. I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
I have the privilege of recognizing the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Kritz. 2 minutes.
Pennsylvania is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for yielding. Mr. Speaker, the medical device industry is a unique American success story, both for patients and for our economy. Within the last 2 decades, we have seen a rapid growth in medical technology companies in my home state of Pennsylvania, providing tens of thousands of jobs, billions of dollars in revenue, and contributing to better health outcomes for millions of Americans and patients globally. These are good-paying jobs that help sustain the middle class in our country, and we must create an environment that encourages 21st-century innovative industries like medical device manufacturing. As our economy continues to struggle, an additional 2.3% excise tax would be a burdensome charge on an industry that is steadily growing and creating jobs. One medical device company that employs hundreds in my district told me we are at full capacity and need to expand. This excise tax will prevent any plans for growth in the near future. Mr. Speaker, we simply cannot allow the potential for job growth, the potential for further American innovation and competitiveness to be lost in today's economy. Last year, I co-sponsored the original version of the Protect Medical Innovations Act. There is bipartisan support to repeal this tax, but in the past week, Republicans have muddied the process and decided to play politics with this bill. While I strongly disagree with the path Republicans have decided to take, the issue at hand is about sustaining and creating American jobs, and I support the repeal of the excise tax on medical devices, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Kemp.
Thank you. At this time, I yield 2 minutes to a distinguished member of the Ways and Means Committee, the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Roscoe.
Gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, what I'd like to do is just to reflect for a minute on some of the promises around President Obama's health care law. You remember, he said during the course of the debate about the health care law, Mr. Speaker, that if you like what you have, you can keep it. But what we found is that some estimates say that up to 30% of employers will actually drop their health care coverage. So those folks that have that coverage, they don't get to keep that coverage, Mr. Speaker. There was also a promise that the law would actually lower premiums, and yet family premiums are already increasing by as much as $1,600 per year. But there was one promise that was made that was actually kept, and it was a promise, Mr. Speaker, from the gentlelady from California, who, as Speaker of the House, said, in a nutshell, we've got to pass the bill so that you can know what's in it. Well, she did, and we do. And what's in it was a cascading group of mistakes. One was the 1099 bill. Big mistake. Wasn't found the first time around. We were able to fix that. The second was the Class Act, a recognition that it was a failure and inoperable. Hasn't been dealt with by the administration, but at least they put the white flag up and said it's ridiculous. 2 other things now have come to our attention. The first is well discussed, that is the medical device tax. And even the gentleman from Washington, from the other side of the aisle, makes an argument criticizing the study, but at best he creates a Hobson's choice. At best he says, well, it may not kill jobs, but then the alternative, Mr. Speaker, it's just going to raise health care costs. That's what that study says. And the irony is, now we have the chance, under the leadership of the gentlelady from Kansas, Ms. Jenkins, to make so that working moms don't have to have the hassle of going to see a physician when their child is sick in order to buy an over-the-counter medication. This is well thought out. It makes perfect sense. We need to support this. I urge an aye vote. I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
I now yield 3 minutes to another distinguished member of our committee, Mr. Doggett from Texas.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 3 minutes.
Well, Mr. Speaker, our long wait is over. A year and a half after their move to repeal the Affordable Health Care Act, the Republicans are back with the replace part of their repeal and replace slogan. And rather than offering an answer to comprehensive health care for 30 million more Americans who need it, all they have to offer today is a tax break for Tylenol. Well, I tell you, health care in this country is more than a 2 Tylenol headache, and it needs a more comprehensive response. Of course, the real purpose of their action today is just this week's attempt to wreck the Affordable Health Care Act and to protect health insurance monopolies. Some of these are the very same health insurers that demand more than 20 cents of every dollar for their overhead. 20 cents, 10 times the administrative cost of the Medicare system. But our Republican colleagues never let reality get in the way of ideology. When they question most any government initiative that is called public, as in public education, or social, as in Social Security, as usual, they continue to demand legislation that offers more comfort for the comfortable while actually increasing the number of uninsured by 350,000. Understand that. If this legislation becomes law, instead of decreasing the number of uninsured American families, we'll have 350,000 more Americans that don't have health insurance. That's their plan. Our country continues to face a real health care crisis. Too many small businesses and individuals are paying too much for too little health care. Millions of families are just one accident on the way home from work this evening, or one illness, one child with a disability from facing personal bankruptcy. That has not changed. The Affordable Health Care Act, I believe, is too weak. It should be much stronger. But it is so much better than the system we find ourselves in today, with so many lacking so much, and it's far superior to the Republican do little or do next to nothing approach. Give the American people half a life preserver, which is their approach. As always, when there is a need for public action, whether it is building a better bridge or more bridges, or providing an opportunity for more young Americans to get a college education, or health care, be it affordable preventive care, school-based care, long-term care, the Republican answer is always the same. No, no, and their excuse is always the same too. The deficit made me do it. I'd like to do something about long-term care, but we just can't afford to do it. What a contrast when it comes to bills like today. Because whenever it is about... Do you have an additional minute?
I yield an additional 1 minute.
Whenever it is about depleting the Treasury's ability to fund those affordable needs for our country, they don't worry too much about the deficit. $46 billion earlier in the year. This is part of a package of almost $42 billion of additional revenue depletion. Later in the summer, we are told they'll come up with $4 trillion of Bush tax cut extension. What this will ultimately lead to, if we pursue the irresponsible path of which this is just another step, is that vital public programs that work, Medicare and Social Security, cannot be sustained. They cannot be financed. There is no free lunch to retirement and health security in this country. It requires that we invest in a responsible way, and that's what the Affordable Health Care Act does. Reject this legislation today, which will undermine it and set us back in our efforts to provide health care security to millions of American families, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished majority leader, the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Cantor.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 1 minute.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Michigan, Chairman Camp. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the legislation before us to reduce health care costs and expand patient freedom in health care decision-making. Speaker Boehner and I made clear yesterday that the House will not act to raise taxes on anyone. The bill on the floor today is one step of many that we will need to take this year to ensure that end. Even though the medical device tax has not yet been applied, the tax has already led to job losses and threatens to reverse America's role as a global leader and innovator in the life sciences industry. We know if we want to encourage innovators, we cannot tax them. Mr. Speaker, with all of the bipartisan action in the House and Senate on legislation to improve the approval process for drugs, biologics, and medical devices at the Food and Drug Administration, it would be reasonable to assume that Congress could find common ground on issues that are core to promoting jobs and innovation. Unfortunately, don't expect this bill to reach the President's desk in a timely fashion, even with members from both parties calling for the repeal of this harmful tax. The medical device tax was created as part of the new health care law, and for that reason alone, the administration continues to defend this tax, which was only created to fund an unworkable law. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the President has threatened to veto our bill because the tax will pay for his health care law. We should not be increasing taxes to pay for a law that a majority of Americans want repealed, a law that even some ardent supporters admit will not work as intended. Mr. Speaker, the real price is being paid by the American people. A tax on medical devices will harm patient care, not improve it. With this tax, it will now be more expensive for patients to walk into the exam room because the bed itself can be classified as a medical device. The tax will dramatically alter the research and development budgets of medical device companies. Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, a constituent of mine from Richmond requested that Congress recognize the vital importance of research funding and the direct impact that it could have for her son, Joshua, who was born with a rare and serious heart defect. Only 8 years old, Joshua has already braved 3 open-heart surgeries. There's no medical procedure today that can help this little boy. We need to encourage the medical innovations, not stifle them with taxes, so that there can be hope for kids like Joshua. Further, the tax is directly causing job losses and could directly impact small business growth, as the medical device companies often start with just a few employees. Overall, this tax could result in the loss of tens of thousands of American jobs in an industry that is key to economic growth. Mr. Speaker, the President's veto threat is notably silent on the other 2 major provisions of this bill, provisions championed by Representative Lynn Jenkins and Representative Charles Bustani, to give patients more control over their health savings accounts and flexible spending arrangements, respectively. Are these provisions acceptable to the White House? Will health savings accounts even be permitted if the President's health care law remains on the books? The uncertainty caused by the law highlights, once again, how truly flawed it is and why all of the President's health care law must be repealed. Mr. Speaker, there are many difficult issues that Congress must address to ensure America remains a country of opportunity, innovation, and growth. Supporting this bill should be easy. I'd like to thank Representative Eric Paulson for his leadership in advancing this legislation to eliminate a harmful tax. And I want to recognize the leadership of Chairman Dave Camp, who is working to put forward pro-growth tax reform that will make our tax code simpler and fairer and result in a growing economy. And I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan.
Could you please indicate how much time there is on each side?
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin, has 17½ minutes remaining. The gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp, has 26¼ minutes remaining.
I yield myself 30 seconds.
Gentleman recognized.
It's the Republicans who have combined these 3 bills. The Republicans. And the leader talks about jobs. I wish he would give instructions to the Ways and Means Committee to consider and bring up jobs bills that are just languishing from inaction. We need more than signals. We need action. I yield now 3 minutes. To the gentleman from California, a distinguished member of our committee, Mr. Thompson.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker and members, I rise today in opposition to this bill. And this is not a tax that I like. Matter of fact, I don't like this tax at all. The medical device industry has been on the forefront of creating jobs, pushing medical innovation, and keeping all of us healthier. But we didn't pass this provision in a vacuum, and today we're not voting to repeal it in a vacuum. We didn't pass it to be vindictive or mean or because we just felt like it. This provision was passed as part of a larger bill that was a response to a national crisis in health care that we're experiencing in our country. In order to do this, we had to make some real hard choices, so our grandkids and our great-grandkids weren't stuck with a bill for this response, like they were for the drug benefits for seniors or the tax cuts their grandparents enjoyed. This wasn't done lightly, and the device industry isn't alone in sharing in some of this responsibility. But the device industry will also see the benefits of having 30 million additional people covered by health care. Many of those will be customers of the device industry. I'd vote to repeal this provision today, yesterday, or tomorrow if we were having a serious discussion about the provision with a serious pay-for. Instead, we're repealing a tax on an industry that had over $40 billion in profits in 2010, and we're paying for it on the backs of middle-class people, some of whom, for the first time in their adult lives, will have access to quality, affordable health care. Now, this is probably the 10th time in this Congress that we've repealed or we will vote to repeal part of the Affordable Care Act. In addition to that, we've also voted to repeal the entire Act. This is not honest debate on policy, but rather another political cheap shot at the Affordable Care Act. For these reasons, I urge a no vote on this legislation, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
At this time, I yield 2 minutes to a distinguished member of the Ways and Means Committee, the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Gerlach.
Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the chairman for his leadership and recognition. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of this legislation and urge my colleagues to vote to stop now a $30 billion tax increase on medical innovation. This pending tax means higher costs for doctors and hospitals, less investment in finding new ways to improve treatments for patients, and fewer jobs for American workers. What's at stake in Pennsylvania are an estimated 20,000 high-tech manufacturing jobs. Approximately 600 medical device manufacturers have helped our Commonwealth's workforce transition from a Rust Belt economy to a high-tech leader in life sciences, biotechnology, and medical device manufacturing. However, this looming tax on innovation threatens to bring a little bit of that rust back to our manufacturing base. Some of the medical device manufacturers in Pennsylvania have said that forcing them to write larger checks to the Internal Revenue Service would mean facing decisions about cutting back on research and development or raising prices. Cutting research and development would mean patients wait longer for groundbreaking treatments and products. Raising prices will put American workers at a disadvantage compared to their European competitors, which are often propped up by huge government subsidies. Now I realize the President's in full campaign mode. He's traveling around the country talking about the importance of working together to create jobs. So I would respectfully submit, then, that passing this legislation to protect American jobs we already have would be the top of the to-do list that we keep hearing about from the White House. Mr. Speaker, we should be providing incentives that spur innovation rather than the federal government taking more out of the private sector that will threaten to drive these manufacturers out of business or overseas. I ask that all members support this legislation today so that we can stop a $30 billion tax hike in 2013 and prevent putting up new barriers that will cost American workers their jobs. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
It's now my pleasure to yield 3 minutes to another distinguished member of our committee, Mr. Neal of Massachusetts.
Gentleman from Massachusetts, recognized for
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Speaker, I rise to talk about the simplicity of the medical device excise tax and to remind people, as the majority leader said, this is really about repealing the Affordable Care Act. This is not a debate about just the medical device tax. This is an effort to repeal the entire action. This is a tremendous industry. I've worked with them for years. There are 400 medical device companies that employ 24,000 people and about 82,000 people indirectly. It's critical to the Massachusetts economy. But we're debating the same issue we debated 2 years ago when I worked closely with colleagues. By the way Congress once functioned, to work with labor in the respective industries and members on both sides of the aisle to have an outcome that everybody, if they didn't love, could at least come to say that they liked. I negotiated decreasing that tax from 5 to 2.3%, and I stood up to those who thought it ought to be 5%. And the big request from the industry was that they wanted devices that were imported to be subject to the same tax, and they were absolutely correct. We reached a compromise with the industry that bought into this suggestion because they knew that they would benefit from the expansion of insured individuals under the Affordable Care Act. And I should note something that's very important today. The industry receives Medicare payments indirectly via payments from hospitals. Now, that being said, I worry about the impact of the tax on the medical device industry, and if we had a good pay for it today and everybody agreed that we were going to try to hold on to the basis of the Affordable Care Act, count me in. Now, one medical device company recently said to me that if we're going to get hit with a new tax that's going to cost our company $100 million a year, to withstand that kind of tax increase, we're going to have to look at cutting jobs. I understand that, and I'm concerned about the push for companies who are going to cut back on research and development. But I cannot support this piece of legislation because of the offset, which would repeal the true-up protections for middle and lower income families that use the Affordable Care Act's premium tax credits. According to Joint Tax, 350,000 fewer individuals will become insured if those protections are repealed, and I can't support that. The reality is that this vote is simply another political stunt to chip away at the Health Care Reform Act. I'm open to working with Chairman Camp. If we can find a path forward, as I've indicated, count me in. This is not the path to pursue. This is not the way to do it. And a reminder, this really is not the way that this Congress functioned when I came to it, particularly at the Ways and Means Committee, when you worked with industry and labor to accomplish extraordinary things. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Thank you. At this time, I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Upton.
Gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last week the House passed 387 to 5 major legislation that impacts millions of jobs by allowing the faster and safe approval of medical devices and pharmaceutical drugs. Rather than sending those jobs overseas, they're staying here. And the administration's impending tax on medical devices is a ticking time bomb for manufacturing jobs and innovation across the country, and especially in Michigan, which is why we need to repeal it and pass this legislation. Last month I visited Stryker, a major device manufacturer that's headquartered in Kalamazoo and Portage, Michigan. They reinforced the harmful impacts that this tax will have on our corner of the state. Stryker employs about 2,500 workers in Kalamazoo County. They tell me that the tax is going to cost their company alone $150 million. And that number does not include the millions of dollars and thousands of man-hours that they're going to have to expend on ensuring that they're in compliance with that tax. These are dollars that could be better spent on wages, research, development, and investments in life-saving technologies, not only helping the employment sector, but obviously patients as well. Stryker also recently announced the elimination of 1,000 jobs worldwide, a 5% reduction in its global sales force. The cause of that reduction? Making up the cost for this impending tax. You know, the President said earlier this year, he said he would do whatever it takes to create jobs in America. He needs to sign this bill, because without it, it's going to cost jobs, as proved in Michigan alone. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
I yield myself 30 seconds. We very much favor the medical device industry. They agreed to pay for health insurance coverage Stryker in 2011 had revenue of $8.37 billion on these products, with a net income of $1.3 billion. Everybody's going to have to participate, as they promised, to make health care work. If everybody ducks out, people will go uninsured. It's now my privilege to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Kind.
The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee for yielding me this time. Mr. Speaker, in the waning days of the work we were doing to get the Affordable Care Act in shape for consideration before the entire Congress, I wasn't an enthusiastic supporter of the medical device manufacturing tax as one of the pay-fors in order to pay for health care reform. I, however, agreed with the President wholeheartedly that health care reform had to be fully paid for. In fact, the idea was to pay for it and then some, so we had the ability to start reducing our budget deficits well out in the future. And because of the work that was done, because of the hard negotiations, the trade-offs that were made, the Congressional Budget Office, in their analysis of the Affordable Care Act when it passed, said that it would reduce the budget deficit by over $1.2 trillion over the next 20 years. Now, that is a significant achievement, that we're able to start reforming a health care system in desperate need of reform, pay for it at the same time, work to improve the quality of care and the access of care for 33 million uninsured Americans, and also start reducing the cost curve to it. But I was concerned about this as an element of the pay-for because of the vital role that the medical device industry has in our economy. They play an important role when it comes to job creation. They enjoy certain competitive advantages here in the United States market. I was concerned about the tax applying to the sales of the product as opposed to the profit because of the impact it will have on the smaller manufacturers who are operating at a much closer margin. And that's why I support the legislation before us today. But I do so under the proviso and the understanding that the pay-for that's being used right now is controversial on our side. I don't think it's the ideal pay-for. I don't believe that it's going to be the pay-for that the Senate would consider if they take this measure up. It certainly won't be the pay-for that the President will feel comfortable signing into law. So there's going to be additional work that we're going to have to do together to try to find an acceptable bipartisan pay-for if we're going to repeal this tax on an important industry in our country. But I would also submit to my colleagues on the other side that there are many proposals under the Affordable Care Act that have enjoyed wide bipartisan support in the past that can help bend the cost curve, whether it's the build-out of the health information technology system that our health care providers desperately need. That will not only improve the efficiency of care delivered and reduce medical errors, but will finally start collecting that crucial data so we know better what works and what doesn't work in the delivery of health care. There are delivery system reforms in the health care reform bill that's already proving effective. That leads us towards a system that's more integrated, it's more coordinated, it's patient-focused, producing much better outcome of care, but at a better price. And then ultimately, we have to continue working together to change the way we pay for health care in this country so it's based on the value or the quality or outcome of care that's given and no longer the volume of services and tests and things that are done, regardless of results. And these have been bipartisan issues where there's been wide agreement in the past over, which is included in the Affordable Care Act, but you would never guess it listening to the terms of the debate today. So while I support the legislation, may I have an additional 30 seconds saying that?
I give an additional minute.
I thank the gentleman. So while I support the legislation and what it's trying to accomplish here, I still think that following today's debate there's going to be a lot more work that we're going to have to do in dealing with the other side of this Capitol, with the Senate, as far as coming up with acceptable pay-fors in their mind, and also working with this administration. So hopefully we can reduce this tax burden on an important industry that I think we all agree about, but doing it in a more reasonable and more common-sense fashion so we don't jeopardize the health care access of over 350,000 Americans, which may be adversely impacted with this true-up provision that's being used to pay for the repeal of this revenue measure. So I yield back the remainder of my time, and I thank my colleague for the time he yielded me.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Thank you. I yield 2 minutes to a distinguished member of the Ways and Means Committee, the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Schock.
Gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership on this important piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the repeal of the 2.3% medical device tax created in the health care law. This tax will have a devastating impact on jobs, estimated to be over 1,200 job losses in the state of Illinois, which already has an unemployment rate higher than the national average. Instead of working on policies that will incentivize economic growth, this tax will stun it while adversely affecting small businesses and local communities. Not far from my hometown is Canton, Illinois, an example of what can happen when device manufacturers partner with small communities. In May of 2011, Cook Polymer Technology, a raw material manufacturer, announced plans to open a second plant in Canton, Illinois, a town with a population of just under 15,000. These two facilities jump-started Canton's economy, leading to the creation of over 100 new good-paying jobs. This partnership also led to a full percentage drop point in Canton's unemployment rate. According to Canton's mayor, private developers are now building more homes than at any time in the last 15 years combined in this little town's history. None of this would have been possible without Cook's decision to invest in Canton. But unfortunately for Canton, the looming medical device tax has already resulted in Cook's decision against building a new factory in the United States. This tax will lead to future job losses as companies decide to close or cut back on their operations and R&D work. Communities like Canton will see their recent economic gains stall, and it is why it is imperative that Congress repeal this device tax before job losses are realized and America finds it is no longer the leader in medical device technologies. I urge passage of this bill, the repeal of the tax, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
I now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Watts.
Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the ranking member for yielding time. And I walked in on the last two speakers, neither of whom said anything I disagree with, except that I can't support the bill because of the pay-for that is in the bill. I'm convinced that we should repeal the medical device excise tax. I think it's driving jobs and innovation offshore, and a lot of that is happening in my congressional district. But I also think it's counterproductive to talk about doing it and paying for it in the way that has been proposed in this bill. And I will therefore, unfortunately, not be able to support the bill as it's written today and introduced because of the manner in which it's being paid for. I don't think there's anything complicated about this. We need to find a more acceptable way to do what I think a lot of us agree needs to be done, which is to repeal the medical devices tax. But this is not the way to pay for it, and we must find an acceptable pay for. I thank the ranking member for yielding time, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Thank you. I yield 2 minutes to a distinguished member of the Ways and Means Committee, the gentlewoman from Tennessee, Ms. Black.
The lady from Tennessee is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I hope that in the coming weeks the Supreme Court strikes down this disastrous piece of legislation. But the reality is, and no one knows for sure what the court is going to do, and so we must continue to do everything we can to get rid of this law. Today, as a co-sponsor of this Health Care Cost Reduction Act of 2012, I continue to fulfill my pledge to defund, repeal, and replace Obamacare with common-sense solutions. First, this bill defunds Obamacare by getting rid of these job-killing taxes. The 2.3% Medicare device tax would cost the taxpayers almost $30 billion, and the cost to the manufacturing industry would be about 43,000 jobs to force them either to close down or to ship these jobs overseas. This bill also repeals the Obamacare's over-the-counter restrictions on flexible spending accounts. Obamacare's government must know everything mentality takes the flexibility out of the flexible spending accounts and drives up the health care costs. Most importantly, we're replacing it with real reforms that promote consumer choice, quality care, and reduce health care costs. This is what the good people of the 6th District of Tennessee expect me to do, and why they sent me to Washington, and why I'm continuing to fight every day to defund, repeal, and replace Obamacare with common-sense solutions. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin, has 6 minutes remaining. The gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp, has 19 minutes remaining.
I reserve.
Gentleman reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
This time I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Dole.
Gentleman recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I certainly want to thank the chairman for your leadership. I'm pleased to rise in support of this legislation because it will save jobs. We hear time and time again all across the country that it's the biggest issue that we face is jobs in the economy. We've got an unemployment rate of 8.2%, and we need to be focusing in on growing our economy. And this special tax increase on medical device manufacturers, frankly, would do quite the opposite. It would cost jobs. And in the 10th District of Illinois, thousands of individuals are employed by manufacturers that provide medical devices. Frankly, we need to create an environment here in Washington, D.C. that promotes innovation, promotes these medical device companies from all around the globe to come here to our country. So I'm pleased to support this legislation. I urge my colleagues to support it as well, because we cannot have additional anxiety, uncertainty that's out there in the marketplace. We need to make sure that we are growing our economy, and we need to do that by providing an environment right here in Washington, and frankly, we're not doing that today. I support the legislation and urge my colleagues to do the same.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
I reserve.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
At this time, I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from California, Mr. Bilbray.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of this legislation that will repeal the job-killing, innovation-destroying tax on medical devices. I want to thank Congressman Paulson for introducing this legislation. Mr. Speaker, California, in particular San Diego, is a hub of medical device activity. Companies such as NuVasive or Edwards Life Sciences Corporation are but a few of the companies that are located in my district in California, San Diego. And while considering this device tax, we've got to understand that this, in San Diego alone, is a $4.9 billion job-generating, job-creating industry. This industry represents 1/3 of all the life science industries, including in my district, with 100,000 employees that average over $100,000 average salary. The medical device job will cost jobs. The medical device tax will cost jobs, and not just in my district, but across the country. Hopefully, we'll see this tax repealed and be able to. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, in the long run, this tax not only may cost jobs, but could cost lives. Let's join together and pass the repeal of this destructive tax and move forward with good legislation that will provide affordable health care while providing job opportunities for our citizens. I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Hurt.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the Health Care Cost Reduction Act. The American people know that the President's health care law is costing us more in premiums and more in taxes. It is costing us our constitutional liberties, and it is costing us American jobs. One of the tax increases that will support this law is a $20 billion tax on our manufacturers that will result in thousands of lost American jobs at a time when our unemployment rate is over 8% for the 3rd year in a row. Today's vote keeps faith with the American people as we continue working to repeal this law and to replace it with reforms that will deliver higher quality health care, lower costs, and that will preserve American jobs. So I urge my colleagues to support this bill. I thank the chairman and the committee for its work on this. I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Thank you. At this time, I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Schilling.
Gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Camp. I appreciate your hard work on this. Unemployment is the largest problem we face today. So why would anyone want to punish innovation by forcing more taxes on American medical device companies? That is exactly what the President's health care law does. But we have a chance to repeal this tax today, and I hope the Senate will follow suit. This tax will hurt the medical device industry, including companies like Cook Medical, which has 2 facilities in my district in Canton, Illinois. Cook currently has 100 employees but is looking to expand and provide more jobs for men and women in Illinois. Support H.R. 436 to promote innovation, jobs, and growth across our country. I yield back my time.
This time I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Turner.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I strongly support the repeal of the Obamacare medical device tax, which stifles innovative research and costs jobs at a time when our economy is struggling to recover. My bill, H.R. 1310, which repeals this tax on first responder medical devices, shares the goal of H.R. 436, the Health Care Cost Reduction Act. In my community, Mound Laser and Photonics Center, which provides services to the medical device industry, was forced to lay off 10 employees as a result of this impending tax. Furno, another company in my community which manufactures emergency health care products, says this tax will result in reduced research, development, and production of new products. Mr. Speaker, I urge all my colleagues to support H.R. 436 and repeal this burdensome tax. I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Thank you. At this time, I yield 2 minutes to a distinguished member of the Ways and Means Committee, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Brady.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your leadership on this issue. The economic news has been pretty grim lately. Last month, America created a mere 69,000 jobs, the lowest in a year. The job growth has been cut by 2/3 just the last few months. The unemployment rate, the only reason it went down was so many millions of Americans have just given up looking for work. And now we learn today of all the 10 economic recovery since World War II, this recovery ranks 10th, dead last. And dead last isn't acceptable to anyone. This bill stops the killing of 43,000 American jobs. 43,000 American jobs will be lost if this new tax on our medical devices, on our stents and pacemakers and others go into place. So this bill is all about saving jobs. It also lowers the costs for patients, because all those taxes get thrown right back on the patients and carried through. And it stops a tax on innovation in America, which we're very good at. It's key to our economic future. This bill prevents that attack. It also allows families the freedom to use their health savings accounts to buy over-the-counter prescriptions, which saves them money, and allows them to keep more of their health savings accounts at the end of the year so they don't use it or lose it. In Texas, we'll lose 2,000 jobs if this bill isn't signed by the President. I know he's vetoed it, but, you know, these are jobs, Mr. President. This is health care costs. This is innovation. This is what we ought to be rewarding in America, not punishing. I support this bill strongly. I applaud Chairman Camp, the members of the Ways and Means Committee who are bringing it to us. And by the way, to make sure it doesn't add to the deficit, if you get a federal subsidy in health care you're not eligible for, we have you pay it back. We just have you pay you back what you didn't earn. That's the right way to do it, and that's the right way to pass this bill. I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Thank you. At this time, I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentlewoman from Washington State, Ms. McMorris Rogers.
Gentlelady is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank the chairman for yielding. Beginning in a few short months, a 2.3% excise tax on medical devices will go into effect as a result of the President's health care bill. As George Will recently wrote, this new tax will tax jobs out of existence. Last year I had the opportunity to host a Jobs and Innovation Roundtable discussion with leaders from the medical device industry. And one of the CEOs that was a part of the roundtable stated that if you're trying to destroy an industry, you're doing a very good job of it. And he was referring both to the delays at the FDA as well as the medical device tax. In my home state of Washington, there's 17 medical device companies that provide over 8,700 people jobs. These are high-paying jobs with an annual payroll of over $500 million. These companies cannot hire new employees because of this job-killing new tax. 900 people would lose their jobs in Washington State. Nationally, it's estimated 43,000 U.S. jobs will be lost directly due to this tax. This is one of 18 new taxes brought to you by Obamacare. This one will cause medical device companies to reduce their research and development funds in order to pay for the new tax. Who thinks that decreasing jobs in this economy is a good idea? Patients deserve safe and effective medical devices, and Americans deserve the jobs that create medical devices. This legislation will help preserve what has been just a great American success story, driven by our medical device manufacturers that are developing life-saving treatments. I urge all of my colleagues to support H.R. 436, and I yield back.
At this time, we have no further speakers and are prepared to close if the gentleman is prepared to close.
Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
Thank you. I yield myself the balance of my time.
Gentleman's recognized.
In a sense, there's much at stake in this debate. If this bill were to become law, it would unravel health care reform. What this industry seems to be asking is a reversal of their commitment to make health care reform work. And if this Congress and the President were to say, okay, every other industry that participated in saying they'd pay their share to make it viable, they'd come in line, and there'd be no answer to them. So in that sense, this debate, this issue is significant. But in another sense, it really isn't. This bill isn't going anywhere. The Senate leadership has already said it's not taking it up. There's been issued a statement of administrative reform or their policy. The recommendation is the President would veto it. There's a certain emptiness to this debate because the bill isn't going anywhere. The real significance is that it's being brought up, despite that, raising the question, does the majority in this House want a bill that goes somewhere relating to jobs? The word jobs has been mentioned here more than any other word. As mentioned earlier, there is no evidence that jobs would be lost as indicated by the majority. The only study says that the 43,000 claim is wrong. So what's really at stake here, the significance of this debate is this. Will the majority do more than signal in this session in its remaining months? Or will it take up jobs legislation? And I think there's an increasing indication that the majority, does not want a jobs bill that will go anywhere. I mentioned earlier the letter I wrote to the chairman of our committee. I mentioned in there 6 provisions clearly relating to jobs in America. The 48C manufacturing credit that once had bipartisan support. The production tax credit for wind power. Republicans came before Ways and Means Committee and said extend it, but silence. The Build America Bonds program, it helped to create hundreds and thousands of jobs, $180 billion in infrastructure investment. The 100% bonus depreciation that both sides say they support, but nothing but inaction. The proposal of the President for a 10% income tax credit for small businesses, that would create jobs, not the illusionary statements mentioned here. And then the R&D tax credit that the chairman of this committee and I have championed for years, and all we do is have a hearing. And so this bill raises starkly this issue. Does this majority want bills going nowhere? Or will they do more than signal and act to help create jobs that the people of this country badly need? That's the real issue before us today. I urge a no vote on this bill on the merits. I urge the majority start saying yes to jobs bills for the people of the United States of America. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of the time. Gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Camp.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume, and I would just say to my friend from Michigan that we in the committee are in the process of reviewing all of the tax extenders. There's going to be about 100 of them that expire at the end of this year, research and development being one of them, one I obviously have supported over the past. But given our budget situation and given the record deficits that have been run up by this administration, we're taking a close look at all of these provisions to make sure that they're justified, to make sure that they really bring economic benefit and jobs to this country, not just pass them along because that's what's been done in the past, but to really take our oversight responsibilities, our review responsibilities seriously and make sure that the things that we're doing are efficient, are effective, and really get to the core of how do we get this economy moving again. We had the jobs numbers last Friday. They were abysmal. Clearly, the economic policies of this administration have been a failure. We're obviously trying to address some of the other policies of this administration that aren't going to work, and clearly there are flaws in the health care bill. We've had bipartisan support to fix some of them, like repealing that onerous 1099 provision that would have put a wet blanket over all small businesses. If they tried to file paperwork on every expenditure over $600, it was a ridiculous provision. We had strong bipartisan support to repeal it. The President signed it. That is law. We're now looking at today what we can do to improve other problems in this health care bill. One of them clearly is we need to help people save and allow them to afford the kinds of medications they need. For example, they tax over-the-counter medications by saying you can't use your tax-free savings accounts to buy cough syrup for your sick child. So what's happening, many people are going to doctors. They're actually having to get a prescription so they can use their flexible spending account, the account that they've set aside to save for their medical needs. And don't we want parents to be able to try to find a least cost alternative if cough syrup will fix the problem that their child is having and meet their medical need? Shouldn't we do that first before going to the ER or before going to get a prescription? So this again, what we want to do is keep parents in the driver's seat, let them make the medical decisions that affect them and their children. And so we believe that it's so important that we allow over-the-counter medicines to be purchased out of an FSA. That is just a critical thing. And that has had strong bipartisan support. The other issue regarding medical devices. Clearly, the taxing of medical devices is going to do one of two things. It's going to cost jobs, as Stryker Corporation in my home state of Michigan says it's responsible for about 1,000 layoffs as they try to plan for the future, or it's going to raise costs. Either one is a bad choice for those people who have medical needs that they need to meet. And the last provision in this is, can people keep some of the money in their health care or flexible spending account if they don't have all their medical needs requiring the use of money out of that account? Can they save some of it, or do they have to use it or lose it and buy extraneous things or things they don't really need? What this bill would do is say you can keep some of those dollars up to $500. You would pay tax on it, and that means that if you've overestimated what your medical needs are, you can get some of those dollars back and then use those to provide. Again, it's your wages. You've put it in there. It's yours. You should be able to get it back. I think these are all strong provisions. They've all had good bipartisan support, both for the substance of them as well as for the pay for in the bill. That has had strong bipartisan support as well. So I would urge support for this legislation. I do think it has a lot of support in the Senate as well, and I think we're going to see this legislation move forward. So I urge a yes support, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 679, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to repeal the excise tax on medical devices.
Pursuant to Clause 1C of Rule 19, further consideration of H.R. 436 is postponed. Chair lays before the House the following enrolled bill.
Senate 292, an act to resolve the claims of the Bering Straits Native Corporation and the State of Alaska to land adjacent to Salmon Lake in the State of Alaska and to